Hello everyone and welcome to my Lego room. I'm TJ the Brickwright, and today is a very epic day because today is the day that I'm going to be showing you one of my most anticipated MOCs on my end that I've ever built. The reason for that is because I've been trying for years to figure out a solution for this particular build problem, and it never worked, never worked, never worked. And then just about a couple weeks ago, my wife was in here talking to me about it, and I was getting really excited because I had thought I figured something out and then it didn't quite work. So, as I continued and kept working, my wife said, "Hey, did you ever try doing this?" And I said, "Yeah, I've tried, but it doesn't work." And I was going to explain to her why it didn't work, but then I'm like, "I'll just show you," because she's pretty savvy with Lego. I said, "Oh, I'll show you what I'm talking about." And as I started putting it together, it suddenly clicked on how I could fix it and how I could make it work. So, the mock that I am presenting to you today is the Lego version of this. This is Anduril, Flame of the West, forged from the shards of Narsil. Now, a lot of you may think, why would I want to build a sword out of Lego? Well, number one, Rivendell's coming out. The Rivendell set's coming out, of which I have every intention of trying to pick up. But I also have been watching The Lord of the Rings with my kids. As a matter of fact, tonight we will be watching the final hour of Return of the King. We've had to watch them in 1 hour increments because the kids can't stay up very late. And so, as I've been sitting there watching the movie, I have also had the sword in my hand, playing with it and holding it. And as soon as Aragorn received it from Elrond, I pulled this out and I'm like, "Yay, I have a sword." So it was pretty exciting. This has by far been one of my bucket list items. One of my how do you call them, holy grails of all kinds of products and items I've ever wanted to own. This has been at the top of it. And when I finally earned enough money and finally figured out a way to justify it and had a place to put it, it actually sits up on my wall. You can see it in any wide shots or even in the post that I put up last Saturday. You can see it hanging on my wall, and it's pretty exciting. But something you may have missed in that post last week was the fact that the Lego version was already complete as far as the build went. I still had some recoloring to do. So now, without further ado, I will show you. Ooh, something dropped, but it wasn't the sword, so that's the important part. Anduril, or actually, I think this is technically Narsil, because I don't have the writing on the blade. But I do have the hilt and the blade and a tip. Now, this doesn't look super remarkable right now. I understand that. But I'll tell you why I think it is. And it's because it is very flat. And the edge is tapered. It actually goes to a point on the edge. And that's why I think it's one of the best designs for a sword that I've ever seen. Because I was actually looking at different swords that people had made, different Andurils actually, and the coolest part, I thought, was that I had figured out the blade. Because the handle, a lot of people had some really good ideas for the handle, and I did steal one of those ideas. So credit where credit is due. One of the Anduril builds that I saw used inside-out tires for the handle. And I saw that and I went, "Oh, that's a great idea." The ones that they used were way too small. I don't know how you would actually pick up the sword and hold it like this. But I just used different tires and put them on the outside, and it totally worked. It's pretty awesome. So if you end up getting the instructions, when it gets to the tires, Stud.io doesn't really give you the option to turn tires inside out and slide them on top of things and change their shape. So when you get to that part, you're just going to have to slide them from the bottom up onto the handle where they sit. But this thing has worked amazingly. And I also wanted to point out the fact that multiple times during this video that I've showed you, I have actually been holding it with just the handle, and the rest of it is being held by its own weight. And that was deliberate. I've been trying to do that for so long, and that was the biggest concern that I had when trying to build this creation. It is a little bit thicker than I wanted it to be. I actually had the blade 2 plates thinner originally, but as I would hold it, especially if I held it flat, it would actually detonate and explode. But now you can see there's a little bit of a curve to it, and I do have to be gentle when holding it this way. But it can still hold its weight now with that extra plate on each side. But holding it this way with the blade vertical completely holds itself. So a few of the features on this thing, it does have an opposite furrow, I believe it's called. Oh, I can't remember what it's actually called. But on swords, it usually has in the middle to lighten the blade and help strengthen it. They have a divot all the way down the center. Now, it's Lego, so having a divot down the center of an extremely thin product is very hard. If I was able to take those extra plates off, it would actually be pretty close. But in this case, we have a reverse one. So we have from this point, from this tip, all the way down to the crossguard and the hilt, we have a raised section of the blade. So if I get it to the end here, you can kind of see that there are those points on either side. I actually had the whole blade this thin for a while, and you can see it actually kind of has an indentation there, which is pretty fun. But I had to make that an opposite just for strength so that you could hold it like that. Now, when I had the indentation all the way down, it still held like this, but it was a little finicky, and it was always scaring me. But I do have a kind of a fun announcement. If you desire, I've been working with the Lego store here in Utah, in Salt Lake, and trying to see if they would be interested in having this on display or having their employees carrying it around for the release of the Rivendell set this weekend. So there's a small chance, that you'll actually be able to go see this in person at the Salt Lake store on release day this week. But I know for sure that they do want to put the sword and have it available to see on the general release day, because the VIP release day I think is Sunday, and then the general release day is next Wednesday. So there's a chance you might be able to see it if you come one of those days. All right, well, let's go over a couple other features of the sword. Not only can it be held up, and as you saw, I'm not nearly as worried about holding it vertically. But we do have the gold sections in the hilt. Right down at the bottom there, we have the gold sections on either end of the crossguard. Right in there, we have the handle that is quite sturdy. It is big, it is a little oversized, but it works really well, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. The other thing I'm really excited about, besides the taper of the blade, is the tip of the blade right here, because it actually worked out really well. The one complaint I do have is that now we have all these studs showing at the end, but the shape was just so good. When I put those on, I couldn't justify changing it out again. The shaping was just too beautiful with it. So that is as good as I can get it, which is pretty fun. I think the single most expensive part of this entire build is that darn little light bluish gray tip right there. That little tip, I think I got it for about $2, but Rebrickable was talking about it being $4. So that's a very expensive part for just the tip of a blade. Now you could just do the dark bluish gray version on there, and that's what I had for a while until the Bricklink order got here. But yeah, I think it looks a lot better when it's all the same color. The blade kind of blends together a little bit, but when you look close, it's actually made up of a bunch of 2x6 tiles, which is pretty cool. Well, that's enough gushing. I'm pretty excited about this. In certain scenarios, I also wanted to tell you, and I showed the patrons this, so if you want to become a patron, you can go over and check it out. But I can actually swing this blade, like swing it around in a circle, like a little windmill kind of thing. There's even some limited slashing that you can do with it. It's not the strongest thing in the world, but if you were wanting to cosplay and use a sword, a Lego sword, to cosplay, this would be perfect because you can carry it around. You don't have to worry about it nearly as much, thanks to that extra plate on each side of the blade, which again ruins the aesthetic that I was going for. But you know what? Sometimes you got to make sacrifices for structural integrity. Oh, but that taper on that blade, that thin edge, is one of those things that I just can't quite get enough of. Let's see if I can get one more image, one more, so you guys can see that it actually tapers down on the edge. Oh, I told the patrons this, but each one of the little 2x6 sections on the inside uses 25 parts. And then if you include the tiles on the outside, you're over 30 parts per section. All in all, the build has just under 1,000 pieces at 944 parts to make this thing. And again, Rubricable says that the cost to make it is going to be about $180 plus shipping. I think my real and a real Flame of the West cost about $250. So you're not that much less to have a Lego and a real, or Lego Narsil, as it were. Again, no lettering down the blade. That's the number one way to tell the difference. But how many people have an Anduril or a Narsil? That's a lot. They made a lot of them. You know how many people have a Lego Narsil? Well, so far it's only one. So if you want to be the second person in the world to have a Lego Narsil, or I still call it Anduril because I like Anduril better. If you want that, you could be the second person in the world to have one. Well, thank you so much for checking out the Lego room today. I hope you enjoyed getting a look at my Narsil MOC made completely out of Lego and not glued. I wanted to throw that in at the end. Nothing on this is glued. It's all just Lego and tension. Like if I were to step on this like Sauron did in the battle on Mount Doom, it would shatter and it would become the shards of Narsil. This would not break into 6 pieces though. This would break into, let's see, how many pieces? 944 pieces. So we're going to try not to do that today. But thank you so much for checking it out. If you would like to get the instructions for it, they are on rubricable.com right now. I hopefully will have the link down in the description below. And until next time, play well.